All right, let's talk about New York City and the importance of having a good mayor. We saw with Rudy Giuliani and Mike Bloomberg the capacity of a mayor to really change the city, to make it work. But people on the left don't think they made it work for everybody. They think it made it work for rich people. This city is hard to run. Subway system's old. We have a huge police force, but we still have crime on a regular basis. And the thing that Mamdani focused on more than anything else in the election is the cost of living, to make things affordable: food, shelter, clothing, education, transportation. I said before, he's like Donald Trump in that he is leading a movement. And a movement is always going to be a regular campaign. I didn't really focus on him very much, and I cover politics and I live here in New York. I want a strong mayor, and I think he'll be the mayor. And my hope is to not do what so many people are doing now. How do you stop him? How do you criticize him? How do you make him seem like he'll do a bad job? My hope is people look, give him scrutiny and have a general election. But since he's the most likely next mayor, what kind of guy is he? How likely is it that the voters who chose him are going to be rewarded and that the city will be rewarded? And how likely is to influence the Democratic Party nationally? There's already Republicans around Donald Trump and others salivating at the prospect of using him in the midterm year after he wins the election, which he probably will, to say this is the face of the Democratic Party: radical, leftist, socialist. And they're moderate Democrats, including some speaking on the record, who feel the same way. This guy is left. There's no doubt about it. But he's also doing something that a lot of Democrats saying they can learn from, which is using social media and effective communication to say Donald Trump does not have a monopoly on evincing concern for the working class and for having ideas to address their needs. Now, again, maybe not all his ideas are good, but this guy is very savvy. You don't beat a front runner like Andrew Cuomo. You don't win an election in a very crowded field. You don't spring from nowhere as a young man to become the nominee for what some call the second most important, second toughest job in American politics, unless you have a lot of talent. And people have focused on his social media videos, his ability to use, kind of play off other celebrities. I find the guy to be a very compelling guy. And even though his politics are to the left of what a lot of people in my neighborhood in New York would like to see, I'm curious to see what kind of person he'd be. Would he be a better mayor than Eric Adams, who I think at this point is the only other person with the prospect of winning in the general election? Given Adams' record, I think it's at least an open question, and it may well be obvious by the time this campaign ends that he would be a better mayor than Eric Adams. So here he is on Wednesday night on MSNBC talking to Jen Psaki about his view of how the Democratic Party should learn from his victory. This is B5.
I think it is part of a larger referendum on where our party goes. And I think one of the hopes that we had from the very beginning of this campaign was to move our political instinct from lecturing to listening. You know, at the national level, after the presidential election, we saw that New York was actually the state with the largest swing in the country towards Donald Trump, 11.5 points, and that swing took place far from the caricature of Trump voters, instead taking place in the hearts of immigrant New York City. And I went to those neighborhoods. I went to Fordham Road in the Bronx and Hillside Avenue in Queens, and I asked those New Yorkers, the vast majority of whom were Democrats, why they voted for Trump and what it would take to bring them back to the Democratic Party. And again, what I heard from them was cost of living, was an inability to afford the very things they recalled being able to purchase 4 years ago. And when they told me what it would take, they said again and again a relentless focus on an economic agenda. And ultimately, in listening to them, we built a campaign that was explicitly about making this city affordable.
Now, if you ask Democrats why he won, and you ask Democrats why Kamala Harris lost, I think the most common answer and the best answer is she did not convince voters that she understood that there needed to be a big focus on working class voters, their hopes, their dreams, their fears, and that he's done that. He has talked relentlessly about the working class and prices, but it's more than just saying it over and over as a mantra. You got to show voters that you care and you understand, and you got to make it tactile. You got to make it concrete. He had a ton of videos that spoke to this issue. This is my favorite one. And this video, for those of you watching, you'll see it. For those of you listening as a podcast, you'll hear it. This is a guy who understands specificity, okay? He's talking about the cost of something New Yorkers eat all the time, a plate of chicken and rice from a food truck. Here's B2, please.
New York is suffering from a crisis, and it's called halalflation. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of this. How much does a plate of halal cost right now from this truck?
$10.
$10.
chicken over rice, lamb over rice, $10.
$10?
Yeah.
When you're a street vendor, you have to pay for the food, the plates. How much do you have to pay for your permit?
Before it was 22K.
17,000.
And how much does a license cost if you get it from the city?
I think 400.
And who are you paying?
The permit owner.
You're not paying the city.
No.
You pay the permit owner $22,000 just so you can sell this food.
Yes.
And who is this?
A random guy.
Funny, casual, but with a point, something people can relate to. Republicans and Donald Trump have dominated the Democratic Party now for the last decade in convincing working class voters that they understand their needs and they're going to do something about it. And this guy has the ability to say, I get it, with illustrations like that. But he also has some specifics. Now, not everybody likes the specifics. He wants to open up city-owned supermarkets in food deserts. He wants to make public transportation, public buses free. He wants to raise taxes on the wealthiest. Not everybody likes those ideas, but they are ideas that he ran on, and that may well be popular in a city that's 6-1 over, maybe more overwhelmingly Democratic. It's an important distinction between him and a lot of other Democrats. And when you've seen and heard praise from him, from Democrats who think on some issues he's too liberal, that's what they've highlighted. And they're right to highlight that. So some people are casting his nomination as a big problem for the Democrats, rather than what I think some smarter Democrats are saying, which is it's an opportunity for the Democratic Party to say, just like Donald Trump, we are laser focused on the working class of this country. And just like Donald Trump, we've got ideas.